Earlier in this show, we told you about the Ontario Human Rights Commission today launching a public interest inquiry into racial profiling and racial discrimination against the Black community by Toronto Police Services. Well, now I'm joined in studio by Chief Commissioner Renu Mandhane. Now, Commissioner, how is this inquiry different from any of the other half dozen or so that we've seen over the past decade?
So why this inquiry is different is we're actually seeking quantitative data, so statistical information about very specific police interactions with civilians. So everything from stop and question, traffic offenses, charging under things like simple drug possession, as well as bail and remand, to really understand which particular interactions raise issues of disparity and maybe which ones don't.
Well, you just said it there that do raise issues of disparity, and we've heard you speak in the past saying that there is racism within the police services. Have you already made your conclusion? Because that's one of the claims that are being made by people such as the Toronto Police Services Association.
I think in 2017, I think we've established that systemic racism in law enforcement, but in many other public institutions, is a reality. Back to 2009, then Chief Blair, acknowledged that racial profiling exists and that it exists in the Toronto Police Service. So I think what this inquiry about isn't establishing whether racial profiling exists or not, but actually isolating the types of interactions where this issue may arise, so that we get beyond actually a debate about racism and whether police are racist or not, and really actually look at the quantitative data to isolate the kinds of interactions that have been of concern to community, and which, quite honestly, courts and tribunals over the last 10 years have found multiple instances of racial profiling and racial discrimination. And what we're trying to figure out is that systemic?
So there's going to be some conclusions from this. There's been lots of conclusions in the past. We've had lots of judicial reports on this. What do you hope will actually come out of the final report in terms of actionable things?
So right now there's a lot of focus on training and general anti-racism policies, and what we hope would come out of this inquiry is isolating the very specific interactions that are of concern, so that we can actually get to an operational response, so that we see, for example, performance measures and accountability through the supervision of officers, and also that we see operational policies that aim to limit any discretion that might be resulting in racial disparity. So this is about going beyond just general training and nice statements, and actually trying to figure out, where does this practice exist, if it exists, and if it does, what are the very targeted ways to address it?
And why Toronto Police? Why not look at Peel or Durham or OPP?
Yeah, good question. We have done actually previously quite a bit of work, for example, with the Ottawa Police Service, with the Thunder Bay Police Service. We have a long history with the Toronto Police Service that goes back more than 10 years, and which includes actually being involved in a project with them, where we actually sat down with them and dedicated our staff resources to work with them to address racism and racial profiling. Out of that, we didn't see the kinds of results that we had hoped, and so this is a logical next step in our relationship with the Toronto Police Service.
Well, thank you very much for your time. And coming up a little bit later in this show, we're going to have reaction from many of the individuals that are affected by this inquiry, as well as the Toronto Police Association.